Hey Digidestined, it's Ty from Digimon. Make sure you subscribe to Dimsy's domain for the best Digimon content.
Andromon attacks, the hero Guardromon, a Machinedramon Easter egg, and Lilymon's flower cannon. These are the headlines coming out of this week's episode of Digimon Adventure 2020 Lilymon Blooms. So let's look at the good, the bad, and the straight up ugly from episode 12 of Digimon Adventure 2020. And guys, on a side note, we have released our top Metal Digimon video where I rank my favorite Metal Digimon, so guys, please go check it out. But now, let's start off with the good. We start off with Mimi and Palmon trying to find a way back through the ruins. This episode felt very nostalgic with its callbacks to the original Digimon Adventure, more specifically episode 10 of the original, where we had Mimi and Palmon getting lost in the ancient ruins. This reminded me of that, and Izzy was the one to save them back then. This time we get someone else saving the day. Izzy then says that they are in a weapons factory, which is a callback to episode 5 of the original Digimon Adventure. That episode where Togemon first digivolved into Kabuterimon. And who was the main villain of that episode? Our psychotic evil Robocop himself, Andromon. But in that episode, they were also in a factory with ancient writing. It's just really cool that they still know their roots, even after all these years. And I'm talking about the Digimon writers here. In the middle of all of that, we saw Birdmon take control and waking up a very familiar face. And he shows his face not long after that. Mimi and Palmon find out that the scrap metal is all Digimon. She wipes away some of the dust, cleaning one of the Digimon, which turned out to be Guardromon, showing sympathy towards these broken down Digimon. And as she turns around to Palmon, we see him, our killer Robocop, Andromon. I love how Mimi is being so innocent and not having a clue that Andromon is there to kill her. What I really like about this scene was the sound effect when Andromon was lifting his arms. They're not my arms, but they still felt heavy with that added sound effect. And the heavier the arm, the harder the punch. And not only that, a metal punch coming from an ultimate Digimon no less. And speaking of getting punched, Togemon appears but gets knocked back into Palmon because the punch from Andromon was too much for her to handle. And as Andromon is about to deliver his lightning blade attack, we see the Guardromon that Mimi was feeling bad for and helped cleaned up a bit, protecting her. Mimi always gets people helping her, and why wouldn't they help her? Sometimes I wonder if Mimi should get 2 crests instead of just 1. Like how in Adventure 02 we had the 02 cast having 2 armored Digi-Eggs with 2 separate crests on those Digi-Eggs. Sometimes I feel Mimi should also get the crest of kindness. Her feeling empathy and smiling at Guardromon, even though it's a small act, it's an act of kindness nonetheless. Remember guys, it doesn't pay to be kind, and I feel that is one of the main reasons why Mimi does get people on her side. Just like how she got Andromon literally killing himself for Mimi. I'm going to be releasing a character video on Mimi discussing if she is an underrated character or not, from the fans' perspective, next week, so stay tuned for that. I go more into depth with her character as well, so all you Mimi fans out there, make sure to check that video out. Guardromon being here is also a reference back to Digimon Adventure 02. Episode 7 of 02 had both Guardromon and Andromon in a secret city guarding one of Ken's control spires. And by the end of the episode, Andromon made a pact with the Digidestined saying that he will protect the Guardromon from the Digimon Emperor. In this episode, however, he didn't exactly live up to that promise. Guardromon helps Mimi escape. There we have Guardromon give her a flower as an appreciation for the small act of kindness. This scene was really nice. Guardromon wasn't talking, but they say actions speak louder than words. And I love how this version of Mimi didn't get freaked out and acting all snobby towards Guardromon. Instead, she's grateful for the gift, which shows that she's humble and more down to earth. A little bit like Tai, she's more mellow and chilled out in this version. And I like this, especially in a Mimi-centric episode. You'd want to see her best qualities rather than the worst, because the episode is centered around her, and if she was unbearable, then the episode would have been hard to watch. I think we are starting to see Sora and Matt getting close, which is good because at least this time we got to actually see them on screen getting close, unlike in the original where it was all off screen. Matt reassured Sora about Neomon whilst Joe is just getting airsick. Classic Joe. Tai and Izzy were busy climbing down the hole Mimi fell in, and there they run into Gaurdromon, who we saw was also back in the original as one of Machinedramon's minions. And speaking of Machinedramon, I think I might have spotted a little Easter egg of Machinedramon, but I'll get into that in a bit. Mimi and Guardromon find an elevator to go back up, but then get ambushed by our killer Robocop. Guardromon is doing his best but what more can he actually do? He then gets destroyed by Andromon's Spiral Sword attack, and his eyes just fade out like as if his battery just died or something. Kabuterimon saves Mimi, but then gets decimated by Andromon. Greymon comes in, but he has no chance against Andromon. So Tai uses his initiative and digivolves Greymon to MetalGreymon, and we finally saw the full digivolution sequence. And I loved it. When Greymon was digivolving, during this sequence, it was like he was possessed. His eyes were full on bright blue whilst having his body glow with an added brightness to his body, with the metal arm, metal helmet, and the metal chest plate appearing in that sequence. And during the end phase of that sequence, we had this massive circle that looked like a digi-egg, and MetalGreymon just explodes out of it, which was a nice touch. But one thing I noticed during the early stages of that sequence, we saw a red silhouetted metal jawline. Could this be an Easter egg for Machinedramon? Because this jawline looks almost exactly like Machinedromon's jawline. Agumon's dark line does have the option of SkullGreymon digivolving into Machinedramon. So could this be a little Easter egg for things to come in the future? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Andromon versus MetalGreymon. This is one of the fights I always wanted to see. Two metal beasts in their prime. Andromon had the advantage here because the area they're fighting in is quite small, and he is way smaller than MetalGreymon. He just casually dodges MetalGreymon's metal claw and tail attacks, completely outspeeding him. Palmon digivolves into Togemon to help out in the fight, attacking with a chiki chiki bang bang attack. And I love the names of these attacks. They're so goofy and memorable. Bloody Biomon has one of the best ones with her magical fire attack. I love these guys. Comment down below which attack name in the new 2020 series is your favorite. Mine is probably Biomon's attack, but Togemon's chiki chiki bang bang is absolutely hilarious. MetalGreymon's Giga Storm managed to hit Andromon, but Andromon still managed to tank it. In the Adventure series, Andromon has always been a monster of a Digimon. In the original, it took 3 champion Digimon to just destroy the black gear on his leg. Not to defeat him, but just destroying the black gear took Greymon, Guardromon, and Kabuterimon. In Adventure 02, no one beat him. He one-shotted all of the armored Digimon. It took Kari's Digivice to get him back into his senses. He even broke Ken's Dark Ring. He's a beast. And here in this episode, he was done justice. He was going on a mad rampage, unleashing his Gatling attack on rapid fire mode to completely tear the roof down. MetalGreymon and Togemon are holding the roof, but as a result, it leaves the Digidestin in harm's way and in full view of Andromon. And Andromon knew this. He is going in for the kill on Mimi. And who saves her? None other than our special friend Guardromon. Really living up to his name as well, guarding Mimi and holding onto Andromon's leg. And even Andromon was surprised. Look at the expression on his face. He's a robot that looked almost human with that reaction. I loved Guardromon in this episode. He didn't even speak once, and yet he was the one doing most to stop Andromon. Even as he was dying, he was holding on to dear life to stop Andromon from killing Mimi. We saw his eyes facing Mimi, which meant he was willing to die for her in order to save her. Again, they did this with Ogromon as well. They got a normal Digimon that you wouldn't usually care about, but by the end of the episode, you care about them and feel for them when they die. Andromon is ruthless. He stomps on Guardromon, which ended up killing him. And as this soulless version of Andromon kept on repeating the same phrase, Hai Josir, over and over again in this episode, Mimi finally loses it. And understandably so. She saw a Digimon that cared for her die right in front of her. She probably feels a bit responsible knowing that Guardromon was doing this for her. I loved how they did it here in this episode. The feels man for Guardromon. This innocent robot that just loved the fact that he was acknowledged by Mimi, a Digimon that was lost and abandoned in a factory, finally had someone that actually gave a shit enough to wipe a bit of dirt away from him, then takes a beating and dies for that person. This was powerful, man. Mimi even cries by the end of the episode. This was some good stuff. Lilymon finally makes her debut, and her Digivolution sequence is very reminiscent of the original. The way she pops out of Togemon and then she does that spin showing her arms and her full body. Very similar to the original. I just wished it was like Greymon's sequence and was a little bit longer, like how Greymon digivolves into MetalGreymon. The music is not the usual ultimate theme being played, it's that sad harmonious theme being played, because we just saw a Digimon dying for the Digidestin, more specifically for Mimi. Andromon is using using his attacks, but Lilymon is artfully dodging all of them. The flower dust coming from Lilymon, I think, was the one that was slowing down Andromon. That's why I believe Lilymon was avoiding the attack so easily, because of that flower dust. Lilymon does the final blow with a flower cannon, freezing Andromon in that magical grass. Mimi gives the flower back to Guardromon on his grave, which brings this episode to full circle. The contrast between Mimi and Andromon. Andromon is basically the perfect antagonist for Mimi, a soulless killing machine that has no feelings for others, whilst you have Mimi being the complete opposite of that, which is the reason why Lilymon came in this episode. Mimi is fighting her perfect opponent, and that opponent brought her to the brink. She broke down by the end of the episode. It was so well done. I really like this episode. I preferred this week's episode over last week's episode, definitely. Now let's go over the bad. There's only one bad thing I can say about this episode, and that is Palmon's Digivolution sequence to Togemon. That was so lazy. I was shaking my head watching it. What were they thinking? Seriously, I didn't like that at all. But, however, I'm not going to let that stop me from enjoying what was an excellent episode of Digimon. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with our content. And remember guys, I'll be releasing that Mimi's underrated video next week, so stay tuned and hit that notification bell. And as always, care for nothing.